All right, well, let's do kind of a similar format to what we do to start the show. I guess let's look at the shallow league guy you want to walk away from, Tage Thompson.
Yes, Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres, and it comes with a disclaimer that he's going to be fine in the long term. I traded for him in my keeper league, as I said already. He's still shooting the puck a ton, so I'm not worried about him overall as a player. But to me, I'm not even that worried about his health. Obviously, he's been banged up, but I think he still looks okay. I think it's just the Sabres as a whole. They're not the same team. They're far less dangerous. He had 20 power play goals last year. Going into Monday's games, he had 4. And he had 34 power play points. He had 9 going into Monday's action in 44 games. So the entire unit, they're just not functioning as well. And that's important because that's how you set him up for that great one-timer. I just don't think it's working. And I'm wondering if there may eventually have to be a coaching change with Don Granato. Whatever magic he had, it seems to have evaporated. And I get, you could argue the puck luck is going to be better. And maybe we get a mini surge from Tage, but I don't think we're going to get the superstar version of him until maybe next year. So in a shallow league, I think it's okay to cut bait.
Okay, I like that one. Medium league, Josh Norris of the Ottawa Senators. It's just not really been what we were hoping he'd be this year.
Yeah, Josh Norris, he's someone that I usually am pretty high on in fantasy. I think he's pretty underrated. He gets a decent shot volume. He adds in plenty of hits. He can score goals. But right now, 1 goal in his past 18 games. It just kind of feels like it might be a lost season for him. He's coming back from what was obviously a major health problem with the shoulder last year. And he's dropped down to the third line, passed by Shane Pinto. The thing with Norris is I could see if you don't have him, if you're in a league where he's available, you want to, and you have a roster spot, you have an injury, you want to give him a tryout for a week, I can sign off on that. He has a 2.6 shooting percentage in the past 18 games. That should normalize. But if you're someone who's had Josh Norris all year, you're holding on to him, and you see a pickup out there that you've been wanting to make room for, I think at this point, the season feels lost enough that it's okay to break up with Josh.
Okay. This one I'm really disappointed about in deep leagues. It's Seth Jones. He was someone who I was disappointed I didn't get to draft him in my league this year because it's like, oh, he's going to be passing to Bedard and he's going to have those great opportunities on power play. But I guess I forgot, if he's not on the ice with Bedard, he has nobody to pass to. But in general, it's just not been a good year. He missed time with an injury. I was kind of hoping that 37-point thing last year was just a blip. He had 51 points the year before. Maybe he would go closer to that. But he's on pace for, I believe, like the worst season he's ever had after playing 60 games.
Yeah, I think everything you said there is bang on, and that's why I have him in this breakup category. He was someone that both you and I were pretty into this year for the reason that you said. We thought that Chicago was going to be a bit more fantasy relevant, and really it's been Connor Bedard and no one else. It doesn't help that Taylor Hall, of course, had the season-ending injury. Also, even just Lucas Reichel being a total bust. So the supporting cast maybe wasn't quite as interesting as I expected it to be, and that is what's hurt Seth Jones. So his actual, like, if you're in a counting stat league with categories like blocks and hits and shots, he's been fine. He's been more or less his normal self in those categories. So he's not a total zero if you're in a really deep league with all those categories, but the offense just hasn't been there. I was hoping for 50-point season, maybe 10 goals, 12 goals. And it's, last I checked, it was, tracking for, I think it was low 30s, and he has 1 goal. So I just don't think the light's going on this year because there's no one out there other than Bedard. So I think right now, just Chicago is a fantasy black hole for every single person on the team other than Bedard.
Yeah, disappointed about Reichel too, because that's a guy that should have benefited big time, but he's back in Rockford now, which is clearly not ideal. I thought that was over. But for him to have played significantly better last year alongside guys like Jonathan Toews than he has this year, with just it's disappointing because the Blackhawks should have, I don't know. Just the Blackhawks were always going to be a bad team, but they were supposed to be a bit more fun than what we've seen from them this year.
Yeah, maybe next year's the year. Maybe it's going to be Frankie Nazar. Is it Nazar? Nazar.
Yeah.
I think maybe he makes the team or turns pro. That would be very exciting. Kevin Korchinski, I think, is going to get better and better, and they're going to get another high pick. Who knows? Could be Macklin Celebrini. So, and then maybe they'll start spending some of that cap space too. So I think maybe next year is going to be the year that we finally see the little upturn from Chicago. Maybe we were just a year too early on that. But what are you going to do?
I have a theory that maybe that if Nazar comes, because he's a perfect centerman or perfect playmaker, I have a theory Bedard's going to move to the wing, and they're going to have Nazar be the guy that passes to him because he's just he's a really good centerman. He wins a lot of faceoffs, very good two-way guy, an outstanding playmaker. And if he's passing to Bedard and you take away some of the responsibility from Bedard and just let him do just what he does, which is score goals and put pucks in the net, I'm okay with that. I do think Nazar's going to need some time in the AHL, mostly because he did miss almost all of last season. And he has spent
Mhm.
this season kind of just catching up. So he still had a bit of time, like backwards development. But I think that he's going to be a really good player. And the Blackhawks are going to look really good long term. Like Oliver Moore, again, you mentioned Korchinski. They got two really good goalie prospects, which is very rare for teams. They got Drew Comesso and they've got Adam Gayon. So the Blackhawks are going to be a good team. Not soon, but like
Mhm.
compared to the Sharks, who might not be good for another half decade at the earliest. Blackhawks aren't too far away. And I still think they should be using some of those draft picks they have to acquire some players because you don't need 145 draft picks when you have a prospect pool that good. Start
Mhm.
turning it into something that will be tangible long term.